everyone, and welcome to our podcast today. I'm joined by my colleague, Lindsay Lipman.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and we're here to help you with a few tips and tricks, as we say, with putting together a strong application. Maybe I'll rewind that, not say strong application, but an application that is going to help us connect with you and also save you time along the way with some with some helpful hints, as we would say.
Because we have a very robust application breakdown podcast series over 2 that gets into every section. We go quite granular into it. This is a little bit more like top 5 application tips that will help your application move forward and be competitive.
Yeah, so. And I would say that we're sharing a few things that have, I would say things that we assume are being done, but so we don't necessarily mention them because we assume that maybe applicants are following these best practices, but it has come to light over time that it's not always that clear. And so it's a good time to revisit those and just put them out to everyone. So so maybe just to start, we'll chat a little bit about biographical information and how that helps us through the application. And so I'll turn it over to Lindsay to chat about that.
Starting with a really exciting topic, right? Entering in your biographical information as you start an application is really helpful because we do try to target communications to those, whether you are going to be an international or a domestic or PR. Things like deadlines, right? So as a Canadian in PR, your deadlines are different than those who are international. And so if you can share that information up front when you're completing the application, that helps us target things to you specifically. And as Amy and I work with, candidates specifically on moving them along, answering questions, touching base with them. If we know you're going to be coming in on a study visa, that helps us keep on top of your file, make sure you're aware of, let's say, the September deadline, and letting you know that if you are accepted, we provide immigration support. So that's helpful early on if you can include that information. Sometimes I find, I don't know if you notice this, it's one of the last parts of the application that many complete.
Yeah.
And it's like, but just share your address. Like, we're not going to look you up. We just want to know where you live so we can give you targeted communications.
Exactly. And it only takes, honestly, like a minute, 30 seconds maybe. But by doing that, it's going to, quite honestly, it will help you, in terms of like what Lindsay outlined, receiving accurate and targeted communications that will align with applications and like the timeline and the
helps
entire
us,
experience.
It helps you, right? Like this is a thing.
There's a line that I think, help me help you.
Help me help you.
Yeah. Help me help you.
Yeah. It's a very basic administrative tip. I understand this, but it really does help in the long run.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's number 1 exciting tip from today's conversation.
Number 2.
Yes.
So moving along to the optional essays. And just to be clear, these are optional.
Yes.
These are not required.
Right.
There are 2 required essays.
Yep.
And so, yes, be sure to be very clear and succinct and convey what you want to. So take time and effort in thinking those 2 through. We're not talking about those ones today. We're talking about the optional.
Right.
The optionals follow. So the optional there's a number of areas where you can elaborate on if you feel the need to.
Right.
So this is where we would say, don't fill those boxes, those text boxes with, information that really isn't going to enhance your application. We would say, if there's something that's really relevant, for instance, there's a topic around your academic performance in your undergrad. And so we all know, and we've been here, there, where perhaps there was a course that you were enrolled in your undergrad.
Right.
You didn't love it. You didn't maybe excel in it.
Right.
And maybe there was a time frame that you were a bit disconnected, wrong program, whatever it might be.
Right.
This is your opportunity to really elaborate on that and explain. The admissions committee looks at that. And so I think it's really important to fill that piece out, at least, if that is something that's important to you and could be, let's say, connect the dots with looking at a transcript and saying, A plus B doesn't equal C here. Like there's a gap. And so that's where we would say, definitely take advantage of that. And that will be very helpful in the long run.
Right. Yeah. But sometimes what we see is people have an 86% GPA and they still write that essay. True. And I'm like, so again, at the end of the day, you do you. And you complete whatever essays you feel is going to help your profile. Because you said, enhance your profile. But we wouldn't be concerned with an 86 GPA. So I just want you to also time well spent.
Right.
Same as if you have received a GMAT exemption in advance. This sometimes gets a little confusing as well. We have that all over your file. So you don't need to upload that email as part of your documentation. We've got you covered. Also, if you don't need to explain your low academic horsepower, if you did think you had that in your undergrad, if we gave you the GMAT exemption.
Right. Yeah.
So again, it's just clarity, and I get it, right? Sometimes people are stressed and they want, again, make sure they're putting forward a strong application. There's nothing questionable about it. That's also where you and I are live around to chat live with them about clarifications. But we're hoping things like today might help just put your mind at ease as you're working on your application in the evenings or weekends and you're just not quite sure. You don't need to unless you really feel you need to.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, right?
And the third tip really is around references. Yeah. So the great thing with our application is that your references don't need to be completed when the applicant clicks submit, but you also want to give your references time. So a great first step is giving the references a lot of notice. So when you start your application, you put in your biographical information, and then you send out your reference link. That to me is a really nice cadence of steps that you do early on. Exactly. Right? But I think so. The advice here for number 3 is don't leave your references to the last step, because though there is time for them to submit it once you click submit, you do want to give them as much time as possible, and things can happen. Like they might become unwell, they might be going on vacation, and their email might get lost, or sometimes our system, it's a firewall, so then you got to follow up with them with a separate link, and that takes time. So don't leave them to the last minute.
That's right. Yeah. And one thing we do see, if there's ever been a delay, it's usually due to references.
That's
and
right.
so, and in some cases, depending on the timing of when you're submitting, that can, that can have a big impact in terms of the timeline, in terms of when you're receiving the decision. So just be mindful about that.
Give them some notice.
Yeah, exactly. And so working down our list of tips, this next one is, I guess, two-pronged.
Yeah.
So
it's another exciting one.
It is pretty exciting, which to us, it's pretty basic and straightforward, but to help us help you.
Exactly.
Please use a consistent email.
Please.
When entering in your biographical information. This goes hand in hand with that, with a consistent email address.
Yeah.
And so what we have seen are different profiles started. And so when different profiles are started, it means that in our world, these do not mesh together.
No.
It's not symbiotic. And so we may be working from one email and one line of communication, but you've maybe started an application which we are not aware of.
That's always fun.
Exactly.
You're emailing someone. I'm also emailing that person because of different email addresses, and yet we don't know that.
We don't know that. And so there's this creates more of a problem than you can imagine.
Right.
And so for our sake, for your sake, please be consistent, or notify us if you, just letting us know. If that is the case, we can correct it on our end. Yeah. It is easy enough to do, but we are not all knowing about who started an application, different profiles, until sometimes it's too late. And the last thing we want to do is confuse you in the process.
Right.
And the way that we work, and we work very closely, and we work within regions. And so sometimes candidates can cross over unknowingly.
Yeah.
And so just to...
we both love to work with you, but it's not how that works. You get one of us. And so it's really just nice to keep it clear for us.
It's not 2 for 1. It's not a 2 for 1.
It's not 2 for 1 you do.
No. And then I would say, secondly, again, very exciting information to share. Again, seems straightforward, but not always. And this is really geared towards our international students.
Right.
When you're at that point, you're starting an application, please be careful and mindful when entering in your information. Again, the biographical information, that your name accurately reflects your passport.
Yes.
And while it seems very minor, it can be actually a big mix-up and can turn into something much bigger
and long.
In the end.
And
long.
The time spent to correct this. And it's just the way systems are. We can only do what we can do.
Right.
We want to help you. We want you to expedite your processing. You need documentation from the university to apply for your study visa. Everything needs to match to the letter.
Yes.
And though we have it written in our application, please make sure your name matches your passport, it is often overlooked a high percentage of the time. And when, of course, Murphy's Law, when you're trying to apply for your visa and it's rejected because your name doesn't match, you're in a panic. We can't turn around things in minutes. Unfortunately, Amy and I only have so much power. We try what we can, but we are not the powers that be who can go in and change these things legally. So that takes time. And again, we don't want that stress on you. So please, just before you click submit, pull out that passport. Just check that name and make sure it matches. And if addresses need to match, I know it depends on the country you're in, do all of that because it can really, really set back your timing. And immigration processing is so unknown that I'd hate for that to trip you up.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. So I think that's super important to point out.
That's, our 1 to 4 is pretty housekeeping a bit, some, references, reminders. But the number 5, I think, is honestly the most important. And it can get overlooked because though many do book time with us, it's great to have a lot of these online resources at your fingertips. It's not meant to replace our custom support. True. So what our number 5 and most important piece across the board is book a call with you or I before you click submit. I think, what we want you to have coming to the application is you've listened to the program overview series. You understand that we are a 1-year program. We are in Canada. You do have to be here full-time in person, some basics. But then what Amy and I can provide to you on a call is actually getting more into your career. So when we talked, on other podcasts about what does leadership mean? How do I increase my chances of scholarship? What merit factors do you look at? Is my academics, is my GPA concern? We can talk through more of that one-on-one with you. You're not going to find that online as much. So what you and I offer that I think is separate than these more public on-demand offerings is custom feedback to say, and I think this is most important too for those who are maybe on the early times of their career or the later times of their career. They're not sure, is this the right next step for them? Or someone in general who's not sure, is the MBA the right next step? Like what they want, is it what we can help them achieve? So we most do book calls with us before they click submit, but there are a small fraction who simply go in and submit. And often with the book call, that's afterwards, but we can give you some advice and connections with students in London that might help with your application that we might advise you include, or we'll give you those do's and do nots. So I think the biggest thing is please do book a call with us before you click submit. Again, help us help you. I know. Right? Help me help you. Help us help you.
That's our new tagline.
It's our new, maybe it's today's podcast episode.
I think it is.
But absolutely, I think it really will make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really kind of reviewed that very fulsomely. But what I would say is, with connecting with us, you're getting a very customized kind of, as we like to say, a little bit of a boutique experience because we do, we put a lot into this. We are advocating for you. You're going to ask us questions and we're going to do our best to match our answers with your profile, moving forward. Yes, you can find all of these resources. We have quite a few. We've got podcasts. We've got a robust website, which is really intended to kind of give you the overview of what to expect. But really, you're getting that one-to-one experience, but also the guidance to really help you navigate the steps through and to put together a really strong application.
Absolutely.
And, by connecting with us, you're also given the opportunity to connect with others and learn about the experience. And when you're thinking about an application, those are the pieces that really make a difference because you can speak to those. And those are, those are tidbits of information that can have a lot of impact just in kind of anecdotal.
Right. Could be a one-liner
feedback.
you add in based on.
Right. Sitting in on a
Exactly.
class, call with us. Just think about that. Just don't leave it to the website or to the podcast.
The thing too, I don't think everyone understands is that with making offer decisions, so we are, we don't make the final decision, unfortunately. No. We are part of a committee. Mm-hmm. But there have been times when an applicant has not done well in their interview. Mm-hmm. Or the references did not share a lot. Yes. But because you or I had enough conversation with them, got in depth with them, we were able to steer the conversation to a more of a positive light.
Yes.
So again, not a guarantee that if you have a phone call with us, you're going to get an offer. I want to clarify that. But we have had that where, and we get it, you get nervous in an interview, there could be technical issues, et cetera. But if you aren't landing well in the interview, but you landed well with us, that can help us overcome some of those challenges that have come up before.
Yeah, I would look at it almost like you've got that support backup.
That's the good word, the support. Well, we're their advocate, like you said.
Exactly. It's that support backup to speak on your behalf if we know something a little bit differently or something to add to the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think those are great 5 quick tips in a way. So. And again, I really stress anyone listening, if you've not yet gone to the Application Advice podcast, it is a great thing to have as you're working weekends and evenings into it. And then as you hear or read anything, because I know I've been there, you're thinking, okay, I think I understand this, but you want clarity. And that's where, again, we're here to help clarify anything, go further into it. But I hope we found this at least a little helpful, especially those housekeeping biographical things. And again, we're going to help us help you. And hopefully we will see you in March as part of our program.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, everyone, for watching today. If you would like to connect with us and learn a little bit more about being a strong applicant for the MBA program, we would encourage you to submit your profile online at our website, and you'll hear from us soon. Thanks for connecting.